mentioned earlier, and you were kind of commenting on some of the challenges in terms of getting that even people who are well-intentioned or corporations that are well-intentioned still fail to provide accessible environments. Can you speak a little bit about what we can do in that regard? In particular, what are some of the, even things like language and where people might feel afraid? In particular, I think about the point you're making, how you were perceived differently. Like you, in a sense, didn't change. You were who you were always, but suddenly people saw you differently. And so how can we avoid that? How can this group avoid that?
So it's a thing in a society, the way we have been conditioned and the way we have been groomed and the way we've been brought up as a society. We always tend to look at people with disabilities, PWDs, as patients, as sufferers, as somebody going through a lot of misery. And in order to not offend them and in order to be polite to them, we actually end up objectifying them, or we have total disregard of their disability. Disability is not a weakness. It's not a negative word. It is not something that you live with it today and tomorrow it's going to change. It's the same thing. It is the environment around us that makes a person disabled. For example, if you ask me, Prateek, do you love eating? Oh, I love eating. I love going out to restaurants. That's how I started MyCity, by the way. So, but Prateek, so does my disability stop me from eating and enjoying food? No, it doesn't. But if the place I'm going to eat at a restaurant, if it does not have an accessible infrastructure in terms of a ramp or a washroom, that is when it actually becomes, I become disabled, right? Or if you ask me, Prateek, do you love driving? Of course I love driving, given that I have a hand-controlled car. But if you do not provide that environment, then I become disabled. So while disability is permanent, disabled, the word disabled is circumstantial. There are two things that organizations of today can really do to bridge that gap. One is creating accessible infrastructure. What that will do is when you create accessible infrastructure, there will be more PWDs that will be able to use that facility, and it does not only mean creating your office spaces, but also means your ecosystem around you. That means more people with disabilities will be visible, will come out to public places. There will be more conversations between the two worlds. You know, in my personal experience, I've always believed that the world is not a bad place. People don't mean harm. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. And that is because they have not had enough conversations with PWDs. I mean, hardly we see people, though they are a very, very huge majority, we do not see them around us because of the infrastructure. So that is one, accessible infrastructure. And I think the second thing that organization can definitely do is training and upskilling their workforce. And by upskilling, I mean both by hard skills and soft skills. When I talk about hard skills, now imagine a day where it's 2 a.m. in the night, it's a weekend night, I am out with my friends, and I come back home in a cab, I take an Ola, and my wheelchair is lying in my boot, and now the Ola or Uber driver, whichever you don't like more, are kind of acting a little not too good with me, and they don't want to help me out, and I don't know what to do, I'm stuck. And then at that point, there is a Goldman Sachs employee passing by, looks at the situation and says, hey, I can help you. And there he goes, opens the boot, picks up my wheelchair, assembles it, unfolds it, puts it next to my door, helps me transfer, takes me to the accessible entrance, leads me to the elevator, while making a very good conversation with me and almost being my friend. Now that is the world that we want to build. Everybody for everybody, and everyone having access to everything. Because that is how you bridge the gap between the two worlds. And when it comes to soft skills, we want to normalize conversations. I mean, when you see a person, a PWD next to you or in front of you, next time, we should stop just telling them, oh, you're an inspiration and keep fighting, keep going, and we love your spirit. I think those conversations should stop. So the next time any of you meet a PWD in your real life, instead of telling them the usual things that you have been, ask them. पूछिए, उनसे पूछिए, मौसम का मिजाज पूछिए, खाने में क्या पसंद है पूछिए, चाय पीते हैं या कॉफ़ी पूछिए, उनकी हॉबीज़ क्या है पूछिए, हाल दिल पूछिए, देश का हाल पूछिए, मोदी, बाइडेन, इंडिया, पाकिस्तान, चाइना, यूएसए की बात पूछिए, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग की बात पूछिए, स्टेट ऑफ इकोनॉमी की बात पूछिए, पोल्यूशन, पॉपुलेशन, वाइल्ड लाइफ की बात पूछिए, और हाँ, जाते जाते ये ज़रूर पूछिए कि अगली बार वो आपसे कब मिलेंगे, क्योंकि मेरे दोस्तों यही सारी बातें तो आप किसी आम इंसान से करते हैं, और हम भी तो वही हैं, एक आम इंसान। बॉडी में डिसेबिलिटी होना एक अलग बात है, लेकिन अगर एक इंसान को इंसान की तरह नहीं ट्रीट करेगा तो उससे बड़ी डिसेबिलिटी क्या ही होगी। Isn't your inability to see another human being as a human being your biggest disability? The answer lies with all of you. And explain to you the English version.
Yeah, you have to.
The English version.
We were talking earlier, right? So you have to say it in Kannada, so I can understand.